There is a tribe in Nigeria called Idoma, the Idoma people, who primarily inhabit the western areas of Benue State in Nigeria. The Idoma people have a strong and powerful deity called Alekwu. Alekwu, known as a traditional god of the Idoma people, is popularly believed amongst the people to have the power to protect, reward, avert, and punish sons and daughters of the land who go contrary to its principle. As the result of that, a lot of youths have lost their lives. That makes some parents being scared to allow their children getting married to another culture who don't have or know about the Idoma tradition. In the heart of Idoma land, under the shade of lush trees and the ever-constant flow of the mighty river Benue, lived Okoh, a handsome and brave young man from a small village known as Otakpo. Okoh was a skilled hunter, admired by many for his strength and valor. His people loved him, but his heart was not to be captured by the beauty of the forest or the thrill of the hunt. His heart longed for something greater, something deeper. One fateful day, the winds of destiny blew strongly, bringing with it Ngozi, an Igbo girl from Owerri in Imo State. She had come to visit her aunt who had married a man from Otakpo. Ngozi, with her radiant smile, long black hair, and a spirit as free as the birds that soared in the sky, caught Okoh's attention the moment she stepped into the village. They first met at a local festival, where Okoh was performing a traditional dance. His movements were powerful, a perfect reflection of his strength. But when his eyes met Ngozi's, he lost all focus. She was unlike any woman he had ever seen. Her beauty was enchanting, but it was her grace, intelligence, and the way she laughed that truly captivated him. Ngozi, too, was mesmerized by Okoh. She had heard stories of the famous Idoma warriors, but seeing Okoh in person was another thing entirely. His presence was magnetic, and despite their different backgrounds, she felt an instant connection. They spoke that night, and the conversation flowed as if they had known each other for years. Okoh shared tales of his ancestors, his village, and his love for the land, while Ngozi spoke of her life in Owerri, her dreams, and the cultural traditions she held dear. It was clear that their bond was not one that could be broken easily. Days turned into weeks, and their love blossomed. Okoh visited Ngozi every evening, bringing her fruits from the forest and telling her stories of the ancient Idoma deities, particularly Alekwu, the powerful ancestral spirit. Alekwu was revered as the protector of the Idoma people, a deity so strong that it governed the fates of those who respected the traditions of their ancestors. Okoh spoke of Alekwu with reverence, his voice softening when he mentioned the deity's power. Ngozi, curious but unfamiliar with the customs of the Idoma people, listened intently. She admired Okoh's devotion to his culture and his respect for the traditions that shaped him. Over time, her affection for Okoh grew, and so did her understanding of his world. After many months, Okoh knew in his heart that Ngozi was the one he was meant to marry. Despite their different ethnic backgrounds, he believed their love could overcome any obstacle. He approached his elders and asked for their blessing, which was granted after a series of ceremonies and rituals. The elders saw the sincerity of his heart and the purity of their love. The day of their marriage arrived, and it was a beautiful occasion. The entire village of Otakpo gathered to witness the union of Okoh and Ngozi. There were songs, dances, and feasts that stretched into the night. To the people of Otakpo, Ngozi was now a daughter of their land, and she embraced her new life with joy. However, the happiness was short-lived. In the weeks that followed, Ngozi found herself struggling with the customs of her new home. She was not accustomed to the strict rituals and the reverence the Idoma people held for Alekwu, their ancestral deity. One evening, after a long day of working with the elders, Ngozi grew frustrated with the constant demands of tradition. She wanted to go back to Owerri, to her old life, where things were simpler. In her moment of rebellion, Ngozi made a grave mistake. She defied the sacred rules of Alekwu by performing an act that was forbidden. She ignored a ritual that had been passed down through generations, one that was meant to honor the spirit of the deity. It was a small act, but to the Idoma people, it was a terrible offense. Okoh was heartbroken when he learned of her disobedience. He loved her deeply, but his loyalty to his people and his respect for Alekwu ran deeper. The very next night, as the moon rose high over the village, a chilling wind swept through Otakpo. It was a sign. The elders gathered, and in hushed voices, they spoke of the anger of Alekwu. The deity had been disrespected, and now the price would be paid. Okoh, torn between his love for Ngozi and his duty to his ancestors, prayed for forgiveness. But Alekwu's wrath was inevitable. Okoh tried to warn Ngozi, but she could not understand. Her heart, burdened by guilt and confusion, refused to believe that her mistake could have such dire consequences. She tried to make amends, but it was too late. That night, the air grew cold, and a deep silence fell over the village. Okoh woke up to find Ngozi lying motionless by his side, her face pale and lifeless. It was as though the very life had been drained from her. In the days that followed, the villagers believed Alekwu had taken her as payment for her transgression. Okoh was devastated. His love had cost him everything: his bride, his joy, and his future. He cried for days, unable to comprehend the loss of his beloved Ngozi. As the weeks passed, the people of Otakpo could see that Okoh's spirit had withered. He no longer hunted, nor did he dance with the strength he once had. The loss of Ngozi weighed heavily on his heart, and he could not escape the pain. The elders warned him that the price of disobedience to Alekwu was not only death but also sorrow that could consume the soul. One fateful evening, as the sun set behind the hills, Okoh went to the sacred grove of Alekwu, where the deity was said to reside. There, he fell to his knees, praying for forgiveness, not for himself, but for Ngozi. He begged the deity to release her from the chains of death, but Alekwu remained silent. The deity's will had been done. In the end, Okoh too succumbed to the weight of his grief. He died in the same spot where he had prayed, his heart shattered by the love he had lost. The villagers buried him beside Ngozi, their graves marked with a single stone, an eternal reminder of a love that was destined to be, yet doomed by tradition and fate. And so, the tale of Okoh and Ngozi became a legend passed down through generations, a story of love, sacrifice, and the power of tradition. Their love, though powerful, was no match for the ancient forces that governed their world, and their tragic end serves as a warning that even the purest of love cannot always survive when it defies the unyielding laws of the past.